98FM. The sound of the city.
98FM's Dublin Talks. Weekdays from 10 a.m.
With Adrian Kennedy.
Now, a story that really struck me when I came across it there earlier on today of a Dublin mother by the name of Renee who was taken to social media over the weekend to vent her frustration at what is happening in her life at the moment. Now, Renee is in a same-sex relationship. They are married and both she and her partner have a 2-year-old daughter together, Ava. And that's just the start of the story. Joining me on the line is Renee. You're very welcome along to 98FM's Dublin Talks. Renee?
Hi, how are you?
Not too bad. Better than you are by the sound of it. Now, I'm just going to read out part of what your post said so we can just get a background as to what's happening with you at the moment. So you said in your post, our daughter Ava, who is 2, has 2 moms, 2 parents, 2 of us who equally decided to have her, love her and raise her. We got marriage equality, but make no mistake, our marriage is not equal. If it were equal, our children would have the right to have both their parents recognised. Now, before I get into that, let's talk about your background first of all. So yourself and your partner, Audrey, when did you get married?
We got married early 2016.
Back in 2016?
Yeah.
And following that, you decided to have a baby together, is that correct?
Yeah, well, I was actually pregnant when we got married in March. We had gone for IVF in late 2015, so I was about 5 months along when we got married. Brilliant,
absolutely. So little baby Ava came along, who's now 2 years of age.
Yeah.
But there is a complication and a problem.
Yeah, so basically in 2015, at the same time the marriage equality legislation was passed, another bill was passed called the Children and Families Relationship Act. So that was passed, and in that act it provided for 2 parents to be recognised, regardless of their gender, on a birth cert, whether they were civilly partnered, whether they were married, or whether they were living together for 2 years. So the same as a heterosexual couple.
Absolutely. So 2 parents, if they were 2 male, 2 female, a male and a female, exactly. The law would recognise them all as
parents.
As parents. Okay.
Yeah. So this was passed and it just was never commenced. So if you remember, when the marriage equality was passed, it wasn't until November that it actually was commenced. And there was, some pushback in the media because it was obviously such a high-profile thing at the time.
Of course, and sometimes it takes a while to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, yeah.
Exactly. So you don't expect it to be the next day, but you would certainly expect it by the end of the year. So that was put through in November. And all of us who either were thinking of children or had existing children, we knew that, this legislation would be coming through soon. So, we patiently waited, and we all started emailing our local TDs, all ministers, the relevant ministers, and we all started getting these responses saying, yes, it's a priority for us, yes, we are working on it, yes, it's going to be late 2016, then they were saying early 2017, mid-2017, and it's gone on, and now here we are, almost 3 years later, actually over 3 years later.
And it's still being pushed back.
Yes. So at the moment, what they're saying, so they've had lots of different excuses over the past couple of years, talking about, needing training for all the relevant people that will be involved in implementing all of this legislation, needing to rewrite things, through the HSE. At the moment, what they're saying is that there was some wording that was wrong in 2 parts of the bill that needs to be fixed, or a new piece needs to be drafted to cover it. So there's a technical hold-up at the moment, but it is something that they could get sorted very quickly if they wanted to, but they don't have any pressure on them to get it sorted.
Okay, so in the meantime, this is leaving you pretty much in limbo, and this is where your frustration came from in the post. And just if you've just joined the station and you're wondering what we're talking about, we're talking to Dublin mother Renee. Renee is in a same-sex marriage. Herself and her wife have a child together, 2-year-old Ava. So essentially, Ava has 2 parents, 2 mothers, but in the eyes of the law, would I be correct in saying in the eyes of the law, only one of you is recognised as a parent? Is that correct?
Absolutely. At the moment, Audrey is a legal stranger to Ava.
And it was Audrey's eggs that were used.
It was. So Audrey is the biological mother.
And you carried Ava.
Yeah.
I find,
and she has zero rights to her at the moment.
And I'm sure you're not. Well, I know you're not the only couple that's in the same situation as this.
No,
it must be quite worrying. I'm going to get into that in a moment. Of legally, what would happen if something were to happen to you or something were to happen to Audrey. So just to set the scene again, it was Audrey's egg that was used. You carried baby Ava, but as it stands, Audrey, in the eyes of the law, has no legal rights whatsoever. Is that what you're saying?
No legal rights.
She may as well be a stranger on the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
If something, God forbid, were to happen to you tomorrow, your wife Audrey, where would that leave Audrey in regards to your daughter?
In a pretty tricky situation, actually. At the moment, what is available to same-sex families is guardianship. So there are two types of guardianship. You can either put guardianship in a will, and it's called testamentary guardianship. And it basically says, in my will, if something were to happen to me, I want Audrey to be the sole guardian of Ava.
I mean, it's shocking to think that you would have to put that in a will, considering Audrey is your wife and also the mother of your child.
I know, yeah. It's crazy. So that's one thing you could do. The other thing you could do is you can apply for guardianship through the courts. Now, the thing with that is that at the moment, in order to apply for guardianship, a same-sex couple, you can be in a relationship either married, civilly partnered, or just living together for 3 years. You have to have conceived through assisted human reproduction, so IVF or IUI, at a clinic. And you have to have been raising the child for more than 2 years together. So I'm actually pregnant now again with our second child, and we're due the end of the year. We would not be able to apply for guardianship right away. Audrey would have to be living with the new baby for 2 years before we could apply.
That's crazy.
We also haven't applied for Ava because she's not 2 yet. There are lots of couples who've been going to the courts and have been applying earlier than the 2 years. And depending on what clerks and what judges they get on the day, some people have been granted it and some people have not. So you can see it's basically based on personal opinion.
And how does Audrey feel about this? Because I suppose you have a lot more security in this situation than Audrey does. Audrey basically has no security. She has no rights, from what I can see, over her own daughter. How does she feel about it?
I think she's upset and she's frustrated. I mean, she's confident in the knowledge that she knows she is Ava's parent. There is no question there. If anything, I feel like I'm more frustrated because I can see how wrong it is that my wife is considered a stranger to our child.
Well, that's what she is. To the point that if Ava was in school now, I don't think your wife would even be able to sign a letter to let her go on a school trip or anything like that. No,
she wouldn't. Technically, wouldn't be allowed. Even for different things like vaccinations and forms you have to sign in a GP. Our GP has been lovely, and sometimes Audrey has signed the form. And, they haven't said anything. But technically, she's not supposed to be doing that because she's not a guardian. She's not a parent at the moment.
Without being dramatic about the whole thing, would it be fair to say that I would have as much rights over your daughter as your wife does, legally?
Pretty much. I mean, the fact that we are married probably, there creates a bit of protection there. I mean, anyone would look at our family unit and be like, well, obviously they're married. The child should stay with the other parent. But that's, again, would be down to personal opinion. Legally, she has nothing.
Now, you said in your post that you're not going to let this go away, and I do hope you fight it tooth and nail. I mean, it's something that shouldn't be left. And I just see on Twitter as well that you've tagged Leo Varadkar and Minister for Health Simon Harris, asking them to listen into the show today. We'll certainly, after we've spoken to you, we will send you a recording of the show, and you can forward that on to
Thank you.
to Mr. Varadkar and Simon Harris as well. I wish you all the luck in the world. It's a horrible situation for both yourself and Audrey to be in, and it's the last thing you need at the moment. With you being pregnant yourself. But I understand why you need to get this done, because God forbid if something were to happen to you tomorrow, this would be an awful, awful mess.
Absolutely. Could I just say, if people want to follow this and want to kind of give support, there's a group of us, concerned parents that are going to be, looking at organising some demonstrations and, just getting the wider community involved, because anyone who's heard of this has been absolutely disgusted, because people think they voted for marriage equality in 2015, and when they hear that we're not equal yet, people are outraged. So what I would say is, if people want to find my public page on Facebook, it's just Renee Von Medding. I'll be posting up updates about planned demonstrations. Pride is this month, and the theme of Pride this month is We Are Family, which is quite ironic.
It's ironic, yes.
Because we aren't. Not yet. So I think we're going to be organising a few things, before Pride, and we need the support of the whole community, to get behind this. Really, what needs to happen is pressure needs to be put on the relevant ministers and TDs. Without the pressure of the public and pressure of the media, nothing's going to be done.
Well, that's why we were happy to talk to you today. Renee, thanks very much for joining us on 98FM's Dublin Talks.
So much.
Thanks very much. And as I said, we will get a recording of that conversation and send it on to Simon Harris and to Leo Varadkar. It is scary to think that in this age where we're supposed to have equality, we have a married couple here. The only difference is that there are two women that are married, and because of that, Renee's wife has pretty much no legal rights over their daughter Ava. So it's a story we're going to follow up on and see what happens, but it's something that needs to be addressed straight away.
98FM, the sound of the city.
98FM's Dublin Talks, weekdays from 10 a.m.
With Adrian Kennedy.